What if everything we thought we knew about Tony Stark was a lie? What if the man behind the Iron Man mask was destined to become Marvel's most feared villain? Could Tony Stark secretly be Doctor Doom all along? Why does he share so many eerie similarities with Victor Von Doom? And could the multiverse reveal that Tony's greatest legacy is actually his darkest turn? In this video, we'll break down a theory that flips the entire MCU on its head. Because once you start connecting the dots between genius, ego, armor, and power, it starts to make terrifying sense. Let's kick things off with the uncanny similarities between Tony Stark and Victor Von Doom. At first glance, they seem like polar opposites. One's a wisecracking Avenger, the other's a Latverian dictator. But dig deeper and you'll see they're cut from the same cloth. Both Tony and Victor are geniuses, the kind of intellect that makes everyone else look like they're still using flip phones. Tony built the first Iron Man suit in a cave with a box of scraps. Victor? He crafted a suit of armor so advanced it blends cutting-edge tech with mystical enchantments. These aren't just smart guys. They're rewriting the laws of physics. But it's not just their brains that align. It's their origins. Both were born into privilege. Tony grew up as the heir to Stark Industries, surrounded by wealth and expectation. Victor was raised in a noble Romani family, destined for greatness. Yet both were shaped by trauma. For Tony, it was his kidnapping in Iron Man, where he stared death in the face and came out changed. For Victor, it was the loss of his mother, Cynthia, to a demonic pact, a wound that fueled his obsession with power and control. These moments didn't just scar them. They forged them into the men they became. And here's where it gets juicy. Both are obsessed with legacy. Tony's driven to prove he's more than his father's shadow, building a better future through Stark Industries and the Avengers. Victor? He's hell-bent on rewriting his fate, using science and sorcery to conquer death itself. They're not just inventing tech, they're inventing themselves. Could these parallel paths hint at a deeper connection? Hold that thought. We're just getting started. Now let's talk about the most iconic thing Tony and Victor share: their armor. Iron Man's suits and Doctor Doom's armor aren't just tools. They're extensions of their identities, their egos, their very souls. Tony's Iron Man suits are a marvel of engineering. From the clunky Mark I to the nanotech masterpiece in Endgame, each suit is a reflection of his evolution. But notice something as Tony's journey progresses. His suits get sleeker, more intimidating, almost villainous in their design. The glowing eyes, the angular lines, they're not just functional. They're meant to inspire awe and fear. Sound familiar? Enter Doctor Doom's armor. It's not just a suit, it's a statement. Forged from advanced tech and infused with mystical energy, it's a fortress that screams dominance. But here's the kicker. Doom's armor wouldn't exist without someone with Stark-level genius. The precision, the innovation, the sheer audacity of its design. It's the kind of thing Tony could have built if he'd taken a darker path. Both men hide behind their armor, using it to project strength while shielding their vulnerabilities. For Tony, it's his fragile human body. For Victor, it's his scarred face and fractured psyche. But what if the armor is more than a parallel? What if it's a clue? In the comics, Doom's armor is tied to his identity as a ruler, a god king. Tony's suits, especially in Infinity War and Endgame, start to feel like a throne. Could Tony's obsession with perfecting his armor be the first step toward becoming something Doom-like? Let's keep digging. Here's where things get spicy. Tony Stark and Victor Von Doom aren't just brilliant, they're arrogant. Both have god complexes that drive their actions, teetering on the edge of heroism and villainy. Let's start with Tony. We love him as Iron Man, but let's be real, he's made some questionable choices. In Age of Ultron, his hubris created a genocidal AI that nearly wiped out humanity. In Civil War, his obsession with control fractured the Avengers, pitting hero against hero. And in Endgame, his manipulation of the time heist, while heroic, showed a willingness to bend reality to his will. Tony's not afraid to play God, even if it means risking everything. Now compare that to Victor Von Doom. Doom's not just a villain. He's a villain with a mission. He believes he's the only one capable of saving the world, even if it means ruling it with an iron fist. In the comics, Doom's conquered Earth, defeated gods, and even stolen the power of the Beyonder. His arrogance isn't just a flaw, it's his fuel. He's not evil for evil's sake. He's a man convinced his way is the only way. So, here's the million-dollar question. Are Tony and Victor two sides of the same coin? Tony's always one bad day away from crossing the line into villainy. What if, in another universe, he did? What if a single choice, a single tragedy, pushed Tony down Doom's path? The parallels are too stark to ignore. Now let's take this theory to the next level with the multiverse. The MCU's been teasing the multiverse since Spider-Man Far From Home. And Doctor Strange, in the Multiverse of Madness, blew the doors wide open. We've seen variants, alternate versions of heroes and villains who made different choices. So, what if Doctor Doom is a variant of Tony Stark? In one universe, Tony loses everything. Pepper dies. The Avengers fall. His tech fails to save the world. Devastated, he turns to something darker. Sorry, perhaps, like Doom did after his mother's death. He rebuilds himself, not as Iron Man, but as a tyrant who believes he must rule to protect. He dons a mask, not just to hide his face, but to bury his past. He becomes Doctor Doom. This isn't as far-fetched as it sounds. In the comics, the multiverse is full of wild variants. There's a universe where Captain America is a werewolf, where Spider-Man is a cosmic god. Why not a universe where Tony Stark becomes Victor Von Doom? The MCU's already planted seeds for this. In What If? And we saw a darker Tony who became a galactic conqueror. In Multiverse of Madness, we met a Strange who destroyed his reality out of arrogance. If Strange can fall, why not Stark? And here's a chilling thought. What if the CIA has been setting this up all along? Robert Downey Jr.'s Tony Stark is dead in the main timeline, but the multiverse opens the door for his return. Could Marvel be planning to bring him back as Doom, not Iron Man? The ultimate twist, a hero turned villain. Let's zoom in on one of the most compelling parallels, the mask. Dr. Doom's mask is iconic, a symbol of his power and his pain. In the comics, Victor's face was scarred in an experiment gone wrong, and he wears the mask to hide his disfigurement. But it's more than physical, it's psychological. The mask is Doom's way of punishing himself, of severing ties with the man he once was. Now think about Tony Stark. He doesn't wear a physical mask to hide his face, but he's got plenty of metaphorical ones. His sarcasm, his bravado, his playboy persona, they're all masks to hide his guilt, his fear, his self-doubt. Throughout the MCU, Tony's arc is about confronting his inner demons. In Iron Man 3, he battles PTSD. In Civil War, he's torn apart by guilt over Ultron. In Endgame, he sacrifices himself to atone for his failures. But what if, in another universe, Tony's guilt consumed him? What if he didn't find redemption? Imagine a Tony who blames himself for the snap, for the deaths of his friends, for the collapse of his world. He might forge a mask, not to protect his identity, but to erase it. He might become doomed to punish himself, to become the monster he believes he is. The symbolism is haunting two men, hiding their true selves behind armor and masks, driven by the same inner torment. Let's bring in another piece of the puzzle, Kang the Conqueror. Introduced in Loki and set to dominate Avengers Secret Wars, Kang is a time-traveling tyrant who knows every timeline. If anyone's aware of a Tony Stark Dr. Doom connection, it's him. Think about it. Kang's obsessed with controlling the multiverse, pruning timelines that threaten his rule. What if one of those timelines involves a Tony Stark who becomes Dr. Doom? A Stark-level genius with Doom's ambition would be a nightmare for Kang. It could explain why we haven't seen Iron Man variants in the MCU since Endgame. Maybe Kang's is keeping them locked away, or worse, manipulating them into becoming something darker. This ties into the broader MCU narrative. Endgame introduced time travel, and Tony was the one who cracked it. His genius made the time heist possible, but it also opened Pandora's box. The multiverse is unraveling, and Kang's at the center of it. If Tony's actions in Endgame set the stage for the multiverse's chaos, it's poetic that he might return as its greatest threat, Dr. Doom. Let's ground this theory in the comics, because Marvel loves pulling inspiration from the source material. In the comics, Tony Stark and Victor Von Doom have crossed paths plenty of times, and their dynamic is electric. They're rivals, equals, and sometimes even allies. In Iron Man Dr. Doom, they team up to battle a common enemy, but their egos nearly destroy them. In Infamous Iron Man, Doom actually tries to become a hero, taking on the Iron Man mantle after Tony's death. But here's the kicker: the comics have flirted with the idea of Tony and Victor being too similar. In What If, Iron Man demon in an armor, Tony and Victor swap bodies, and the lines between hero and villain blur. And the story asks a haunting question: what separates Tony from Doom? A few choices? A single tragedy? The comics have been teasing this connection for decades, and the MCU's multiverse is the perfect playground to bring it to life. Now let's hunt for clues in them itself. Marvel's known for planting seeds years in advance, and there are some tantalizing hints that Tony's story isn't over. In Avengers Age of Ultron, Tony's vision of a dead Avengers team, caused by his own hubris, feels like a warning. In Civil War, his obsession with control mirrors Doom's authoritarian streak. And in Endgame, his final act, wielding the Infinity Gauntlet, shows he's capable of godlike power. But here's the big one: Robert Downey Jr.'s potential return. Rumors have been swirling that RDJ could come back to the MCU, not as Iron Man, but as Dr. Doom. With Avengers Secret Wars on the horizon, the timing is perfect. Secret Wars is a multiversal clash where heroes and villains collide, and Doom's role in the comics is massive. If Marvel wants to shock the world, casting RDJ as a Doom variant would be the ultimate twist. So, why does this theory hit so hard? Because it's not just about plot twists. It's about character. Tony Stark's journey in the MCU was about redemption, about becoming a better man. But the multiverse shows us that not every Tony gets a happy ending. A Tony who becomes Doom isn't just a villain, he's a tragedy. He's the man who tried to save the world and failed, who let his demons win. For fans, this would be a gut punch. We watched Tony grow, sacrifice, and die as a hero. To see him return as a tyrant would be heartbreaking. But it would also be compelling. It would force us to question what makes a hero, what makes a villain, and whether anyone is truly beyond redemption. So, is this theory crazy? Or is Marvel playing 4D chess? The evidence is compelling. Tony and Doom's parallel origins, their armor obsession, their god complexes, they're too similar to be coincidence. The multiverse opens the door for a dark Tony variant, and Kang's timeline meddling could be the key. The comics have teased this connection for years, and the MCU's dropping hints that RDJ's story isn't over. But here's the truth we won't know until Avengers: Secret Wars hits theaters. Until then, this theory is a tantalizing what if, a reminder that in the multiverse, anything is possible. Tony Stark could be a hero, a villain, or something in between. And if he does become Doctor Doom, it'll be the biggest twist in MCU history. What do you think, Marvel fans? Is Tony Stark destined to become Doctor Doom? Or is this just a wild fan theory? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. We want to hear your take. If you loved this deep dive, smash that like button, subscribe, and hit the bell so you don't miss our next MCU breakdown. Share this video with your fellow Marvel nerds. And let's get this theory trending. Until next time, keep your arc reactor charged and your multiverse theories wild. Excelsior!